Have you ever heard a story so incredible it sounds like a myth, yet so powerful it has shaped a nation's spirit for thousands of years? Today, we re-diving into one of Vietnam's most epic legends, the story of a hero who was born from silence and rose to save his homeland. This is the legend of Thanh Giong, the heavenly king of Ph Hung. Our story begins a very, very long time ago, in a peaceful village at the foot of Sóc Mountain. Here lived an old couple, kind and hard-working, but their hearts were heavy with one great sadness: they had no children. Year after year, they hoped and prayed, but their home remained quiet. One morning, the old woman went to work in her field as usual, but this day was different. There, pressed into the soft earth, was a footprint unlike any she had ever seen. It was enormous, a giant's print, left by some mysterious visitor. Overcome with curiosity, she stepped into the massive indentation, placing her small foot inside the giant outline. It was a simple, curious act, but it set in motion a miracle. Not long after that strange day in the field, the old woman discovered she was pregnant. The couple's joy was immeasurable. Their prayers had been answered. In time, she gave birth to a beautiful, healthy baby boy. They named him Giong, but their joy soon turned to quiet concern. Giong was not like other children. As the months turned into years, he remained silent. He never cried, never laughed, and never uttered a single word. By the time he turned 3, he still couldn't walk or even sit up on his own. He just lay in his cradle, still and quiet, his eyes watching the world go by. The villagers whispered, wondering about the strange, silent child. While Giong lay quietly in his home, a dark storm was gathering on the horizon. The kingdom was under attack. The brutal invaders, known for their cruelty and strength, were sweeping across the land. They were a force of pure destruction, burning villages to the ground, slaughtering innocent people, and leaving a trail of sorrow in their wake. The king, desperate to save his people, sent messengers to every corner of the kingdom, carrying a royal decree. The call went out: "Our nation is in peril. We need heroes to rise and defend our home." The sound of the messenger's horse and the royal announcement eventually reached Giong's small, quiet village. As the messenger proclaimed the king's desperate plea for a champion, something extraordinary happened inside the small house where the silent boy lay. Hearing the urgent call from outside, 3-year-old Giong, who had never spoken a word in his life, suddenly sat up. His eyes were bright and clear. He turned to his stunned mother and spoke, his voice strong and confident. "Mother," he said, "please, go and call the royal messenger to me. I will go fight the enemy." His mother could hardly believe her ears. The shock was overwhelming, but it was quickly replaced by a wave of pure joy. Her son could speak, and his first words were a promise to save the entire nation. Without a second's hesitation, she rushed out and brought the king's messenger into their home. The messenger looked down, bewildered, at the small child, but Giong spoke to him with the authority of a general. "Go back to the king," the boy commanded. "Tell him to forge for me an armor of iron, a helmet of iron, iron shoes, and a great iron horse that breathes fire. With these, I will shatter the invaders and protect our kingdom." The messenger, sensing the divine power in the child's words, bowed and raced back to the capital, his heart pounding with the impossible news. As the king's blacksmiths worked day and night to fulfill the strange request, an even more incredible transformation began. From the moment he spoke, Giong started to eat, and eat, and eat, and eat. He devoured bowls of rice as large as baskets. Soon, that wasn't enough. He ate entire pots of rice, then whole trays of food prepared for a family. He was growing, right before everyone's eyes. His limbs stretched, his body expanded, and he grew taller and stronger with every meal. The clothes his mother made for him would tear the moment she put them on. The news of the miraculous child spread like wildfire. The entire village, filled with hope and a sense of duty, rallied to support him. They cooked vast amounts of rice, brought him fruits and vegetables from their gardens, and offered everything they had. They knew this was no ordinary child. This was their savior. Each grain of rice they contributed was a prayer, a piece of their collective strength being poured into the hero who would fight for them all. By the time the king's soldiers arrived, struggling under the weight of the massive iron gifts, Giong was no longer a child. He was a towering giant, his presence filling the entire courtyard. He stood tall and powerful, a symbol of the nation's combined will to survive. Giong calmly reached for the gifts. He donned the heavy iron armor as if it were made of cloth. He placed the mighty iron helmet on his head and slipped his feet into the iron shoes. Then, He approached the magnificent iron horse. It was a fearsome creation, solid metal, but Giong swung himself onto its back with ease. He grabbed his iron spear, a weapon of immense size and weight. The moment he took the reins, the iron horse came to life. It let out a deafening neigh that echoed through the mountains, and plumes of real fire erupted from its nostrils. The ground shook, and the villagers fell back in awe and reverence. Without a single word of farewell, Giong spurred his fiery steed forward, charging directly toward the battlefield. The earth split under the horse's thunderous hooves, and forests of trees bent aside, as if bowing to his power. The hero was on his way. The UN army, confident in their numbers and brutality, froze in terror at the sight. Charging toward them was a titan, glowing in the sun, riding a horse of fire and smoke. Fear was a weapon Giong wielded before he even struck a blow. He crashed into their ranks like a tidal wave. With every swing of his enormous iron spear, dozens of enemy soldiers were thrown into the air. The battlefield became a storm of chaos and divine fury. Giong fought with relentless power, driving the invaders back. The battle raged on, fierce and bloody, but in the heat of the fight, after felling countless enemies, his mighty iron spear finally gave way. It snapped in two. For a moment, it seemed disaster had struck. The enemy saw their chance and began to rally. But Giong was not defeated. His resolve was stronger than any iron. Unarmed, he looked around and saw the dense bamboo groves lining the hills. Without missing a beat, he reached down and uprooted entire clumps of bamboo, roots and all. Now wielding the very land itself as his weapon, he charged back into the fight. Each swing of the thick bamboo stalks was like a clap of thunder. The enemy soldiers fell like blades of grass before a scythe. The bamboo, empowered by Giong's divine strength, proved even more devastating than the iron spear. The invaders, their spirits completely broken, turned and fled in a panicked retreat. To this day, the bamboo in that region is said to have strange, scorched burn marks on it, a lasting sign of that legendary battle. With the enemy completely routed and the kingdom safe, Giong's duty was done. He didn't stay for the parades or the honors. He turned his fire-breathing horse and rode not back to the capital, but to the summit of Sóc Mountain, the very place where his story began. There, at the highest peak, he paused. He took off his iron armor and calmly looked up at the sky. Then, in a final breathtaking miracle, both hero and horse slowly began to lift off the ground. They ascended into the heavens, rising higher and higher until they vanished completely into the clouds. Returning to the celestial realm from which they came, he had arrived as a miracle, and he departed as a god. The people, watching from below, understood. Giong was not just a man, he was a heavenly saint, a protector sent down by the gods in their darkest hour to save the Vietnamese people. To honor the selfless hero, the king bestowed upon him the highest title, Phe Hung Theon Vibang, the heavenly king of Ph Hung, and for thousands of years since, the people of Vietnam have held festivals at the SC Temple, celebrating the memory of the silent boy who grew into a giant. A symbol of the incredible strength that can arise from ordinary people when they unite to protect their homeland. The story of Thnh Giong is more than just a legend. It's a testament to patriotism, unity, and the idea that a hero lives inside everyone, waiting for the moment their nation calls. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into legend, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow for more stories from around the world.